catalyst for action, role model and mentor, articulate advocate, optimistic enthusiast. These accolades for John Oliver speak to the work he has spearheaded, championed, and led during his accomplished career in Canadian agriculture. John's contributions can be found in the farm field, in the boardroom, in government policy, and in numerous agricultural organizations across the country. His roots in agriculture run deep. John grew up on a farm in Napanee, Ontario, one of the first farms in the area, and one where he and his wife Lois live today. After graduating from the University of Guelph in 1961, John joined Elanco and rose to corporate roles, including Vice President of Eli Lilly Canada and President of Dow Elanco Canada. Under John's leadership, two significant agricultural businesses came into being in Canada: Elanco Animal Health and Dow AgroSciences Canada. In step with his corporate leadership, John influenced and shaped the careers of many individuals in the Canadian agricultural industry as a valued and respected role model and mentor. Beyond the boardroom, John's contributions as a visionary leader to the agricultural industry are exceptional. Canola is the world-renowned, made in Canada crop it is today, thanks in large part to John's efforts. He helped put Canadian flax on the map. And John has been a lifelong advocate for biotechnology, helping attract significant investment in the Canadian biotech sector. While respected by federal and provincial politicians, John is often called on to provide ideas and insights on how to enhance the Canadian agricultural industry. And his tireless involvement has helped many long-standing industry associations get off the ground. He is a founding member of the Canadian Agri-Marketing Association, past chair of CropLife Canada and the Canadian Animal Health Institute, and is on the advisory board of the Canadian Agri-Food Policy Institute.
My dad is one of those people that just has a very large heart. You would never know with him walking in somewhere that he was such a brilliant man with so much knowledge and so many powerful connections. He presents himself as a very simple man, and he really is. He loves being down to earth and just being a farm boy.
He always looked over the fence and looked to the horizon and see there things that others may have missed.
John's ability to lead an organization was by painting a compelling vision of where the business could go. And he was so good at it that people would say, well, I want to go there with you. He knew everybody in the company. That was his leadership style. He also knew everybody in the industry. So if you were in the ag chem industry and you didn't know John Oliver, you just got here. John had the capacity to talk to anybody. He could talk to cabinet ministers, prime ministers, regulatory authorities. And it was his ability to talk to anybody at any level that was required and talk with conviction, talk with sincerity, and talk with honesty.
John's an ideas guy as well. I mean, if you sit down with John, you're going to leave that meeting with probably 10 or 15 new ideas. Now, some of them might be dumb ideas, but they're all ideas that you need to at least consider.
He attracted people to him, to his ideas. But fundamentally, you knew if John was talking about it, it was probably right, because he had the grounding in this, you know, the academic side of that, and the people that he associated with there were solid.
John had a great business background, but John didn't have a business degree. John also had a great line, which was, there's nothing wrong with a guy with an MBA that 10 years in business can't fix.
I've had many good mentors. John, I would count as one of the better ones. But he was an irritating mentor, because he would poke you and he would make you say, well, think about that piece too, you know. And the more he did that, the better the output. We will see the legacy that John has laid out here, I think, lasts for a long time.
Our scientists were prepared to look and had confidence that canola could become a very important element At that consultation, John raised his voice, raised his interest, and shows that it was something important that he was seeing to take place and happen. And this is how the influence of people like him made Canada a production that is now over $14 billion a year of export.
John had an effect on everybody, even the people that work for him. They've all done so well. Everybody that's come through under John's leadership has had extremely successful careers and gone on to do great things with the way John taught them how to do it.
John is an agent of change.
But he's also an activist. He's a person that has a clear understanding that if you want to have any ability to predict the future, it was one of John's great sayings, is you had to create it.
Bumper sticker vision was agriculture, the fundamental pillar for a healthy Canada. And that's what came out and boiled down out of the larger vision. That was John that drove that kind of concept and brought the right people together to put a vision in place.
I admired the ability of John to be able to say, okay, there's a problem in the world. We're moving from an era of surpluses in food around the world, and we're moving into a time when more shortages are going to be more the norm. And the only way to deal with that is we have to use our imagination and our brains, and we've got to go in and in a very careful way begin to change that so we can produce more with less. That was the light bulb that went on in my mind, was that's where it made a lot of sense.
And John saw that now this is going to be important from an agricultural perspective. How do we feed all of these people and eliminate starvation? And really biotechnology in the broad sense is a key component of that. It really is going to take biotechnology and other scientific tools to help us overcome those challenges. And we will overcome them, and John sees that, and he knows it, but he knows that it will take these new scientific breakthroughs to allow us to produce crops with less water and less fertilizer and on a much larger yield per acre. And those are the kind of things that he was really helping to drive. As I said, he's always been a futurist, and he sees out to the front end of what needs to be done and pushes to get there.
We do look at agriculture now in terms of sustainability, and I credit John as the key guy.
If you were looking at some of the speech that John has been giving over years, you would find there inspirational moment in every paragraph. I can remember his reflection on climate change, the impact that it could have on the agriculture in Canada, the role of water that is becoming a big discipline, the ability of sustainability of playing its role. And I could go on and on and on.
He inspired me long before business. When I was a child, he was in a plane crash, and he was seriously injured. His back was broken in 2 spots. But when he did come around and we were able to talk, he was driven to ensure that he walked again. And the doctors really pulled us aside and said, you know, you really have to give him some reality checks here that he may never, you know, he's not going to walk again, more or less.
The other person that was probably equal injuries on that flight, you know, as far as I know, never got out of a wheelchair. But that wasn't John. He was that determined and had that level of determination that he would, and he did. And that's the way he always has been.
He was driven that he was going to walk again. So he went from being in a wheelchair, going to a walker, going to canes, and then to leg braces. So, I mean, his passion and his drive goes beyond business. It's just a personal lifestyle for him.
He's a fighter. He's going to make things happen, and he's going to do it his way.
My dad is always my rock. If I'm in a tough spot, he's the one I want to talk to.
It's a kindness that, you know, you can't buy it, and you frankly can't teach it. It's inner. It's an inner characteristic in the individual.
What I hope is that John will continue to influence us to speak up.
John is a person who cares deeply about what goes on in the world. I do not know where that arose from within John, but it seems like a trait that we should all have.
for someone who endures the amount of pain he does, and every single day. He gets up every day and he wants to contribute and he wants to make things happen. So aside from that, he's just got a big, beautiful heart, so he's pretty easy to love.